It's 1985 and Japan's most popular airline, Japan Air, is preparing to travel passengers from Tokyo to Osaka. Japan Air Flight 123 departs from Haneda Airport at 6:12 p.m. Roughly 12 minutes into the flight, Flight 123 experiences decompression, which causes a multitude of issues. Flight 123 remains flying, but problems become so severe that they start descending uncontrollably. As the captain updates Tokyo Control Tower over a duration of 30 minutes, it becomes clear that this flight is not going to make it. At 6:56 p.m, just 44 minutes after takeoff, Flight 123 tragically crashes in the mountain range, killing 520 of the 524 people on board. To this day, this remains the deadliest plane crash to happen in Japan. At first, this might look like an accidental crash, but was Flight 123 doomed to fail? To answer this, we need to rewind and explore the history of this plane and what happened during its initial takeoff. It's 1978, just 7 years prior to Flight 123's crash. The same Boeing aircraft, known as Flight 115, flew the same flight path from Tokyo to Osaka. When coming into land, the flight's captain came in faster than expected, which caused the aircraft to bounce upon landing. The captain's reaction was to flare the aircraft, but he flared it too aggressively, causing a severe tail strike. This is where the aircraft's tail skids along the runway as the aircraft's nose is tilted too high up. The tail strike incident only cracked a pressure bulkhead. This damage wasn't considered major and only needed a bulkhead to be replaced by a Boeing technician. The aircraft was repaired in less than a month and returned back to operating. 7 years after the tail strike incident, the same Boeing aircraft known as Flight 123 was departing Haneda Airport, bound for Osaka. Flight 123 was carrying a total of 524 people, 509 passengers and 15 crew, including Captain Takahama, a veteran pilot clocking close to 12,500 flight hours. The time is 6:12 p.m. and Flight 123 departs running 12 minutes late due to other grounded flight delays. Flight 123 departs Haneda Airport with no issues and within 10 minutes reaches cruising altitude over Sagami Bay. Moments later, however, Flight 123 suffers an explosive decompression. This is where a sealed system loses a lot of pressure. This sudden loss resulted in damage of the rear fuselage, dislodged the vertical stabilizer, and severed all 4 hydraulic lines. Captain Takahama activates the transponder distress signal while declaring an emergency landing. He contacts the Tokyo Control Tower requesting to return to Haneda for an emergency landing. Tokyo Control Tower responds and agrees, but Captain Takahama attempts to turn the aircraft around, but the aircraft isn't responsive. Flight engineer Hiroshi Takashi alarms the captain that the aircraft has lost hydraulic pressure and that with autopilot disengaged, the control inputs are ineffective. It's at this moment that Captain Takahama realizes the aircraft was uncontrollable. It's now 6:26 p.m. and Flight 123 is beginning to turn northwest over the Izu Peninsula away from Haneda Airport. The Tokyo Control Tower continued to contact Flight 123, but Captain Takahama and his crew became non-responsive. Control repeated instructions to descend and turn east towards Oshima, but there was no response. Eventually, the captain reported the aircraft was uncontrollable. As it crossed Shiogao Bay in Yazu, the captain said they were descending at 24,000 feet and declined a diversion to Nagoya, preferring Haneda for its facilities. However, the flight data showed the aircraft was oscillating, not descending. With complete hydraulic failure, it entered fugoid oscillations, climbing and slowing, then descending and speeding up. After losing the stabilizer and rudder, it also began Dutch roll movements, yawing and banking erratically. Despite losing control of the aircraft, the pilots continued turning the control wheel and attempted to regain control using differential engine thrust, but this was with little success. The unpressurized plane fluctuated between 20,000 and 25,000 feet for 18 minutes after decompression. As the pilots appeared unable to descend, they seemed confused, focusing on the explosion and loss of control rather than the descent. Although the flight engineer twice suggested using oxygen masks after learning passenger masks had failed, none of the pilots did so. The captain only responded yes, but took no action. The accident report cites that captain's inaction and other behaviours are a clear sign of hypoxia. Clear audio from the cockpit microphone throughout the flight confirms the masks were never worn. Just after 6:30, the flight engineer responded to Japan Air Tokyo via cell call for the first time, reporting a presumed door failure and emergency descent after learning the oxygen masks were inoperative. When asked if they planned to return to Haneda, he repeated they were descending and asked Tokyo to continue monitoring. The pilots eventually regained limited control by adjusting engine thrust, which helped dampen the phugoid oscillations and stabilized altitude. However, due to engine response lag, controlling Dutch roll through differential thrust was nearly impossible. Around 6:40 p.m, the landing gear was lowered using the emergency system to further stabilize the aircraft. This reduced the phugoid and Dutch roll motions, but also weakened directional control, worsening the crew's ability to fly the aircraft. Shortly after, the flight engineer suggested using speed brakes, but the pilots did not respond. The aircraft began a 420-degree descending right-hand turn over Utsuki. It descended from 22,000 to 17,000 feet as pilots reduced thrust between 6:43 and 6:48 p.m. As they descended into denser air, hypoxia symptoms appeared to lessen, and communication improved. As the aircraft descended below 7,000 feet heading west, it neared mountainous terrain. Thicker air briefly deactivated the cabin altitude alert, which soon resumed. The captain ordered maximum engine power to climb, but inconsistent throttle changes excited the phugoid motion. The aircraft pitched steeply, then down, eventually stalling at 9,000 feet. The captain ordered full power as the stick shaker activated. To prevent another stall and gain control, he extended the flaps to 5 units, using an alternate electrical system. SARCAL alarms from Japan Air Tokyo went unanswered until the flight engineer finally responded. The crew requested their position, which was 45 nautical miles northwest of Haneda and 25 nautical miles west of Kumangaya. A minute later, the captain requested further flap extension. The co-pilot called for 10 units, but the flaps had already reached 20 units, causing the aircraft to bank abnormally to the right, likely due to a lift imbalance, increase in power, especially on the left engines, worsening the roll. By the time the flaps reached 25 units, the bank angle exceeded 60 degrees, and the nose began to drop. The captain urgently ordered flap retraction and more power, but asymmetric thrust persisted. The bank angle exceeded 80 degrees, and the aircraft entered into an unrecoverable right-hand descent. The captain made desperate final commands as the ground proximity warning activated. In the last moments, as speed exceeded 340 knots, the pitch leveled and the aircraft briefly pulled 3G of upward acceleration just before impact. As the aircraft impacted with the mountain, it first clipped a ridge that broke off its right wing, along with 2 engines that were later found 600 meters away from the aircraft's body. The aircraft continued to descend along the mountain as it then collided with another ridge that flipped the aircraft upside down before it came to its resting spot. At 6:56 p.m. on August 12, 1985, Flight 123 tragically crashed within the Takama-Gahara mountain range, killing 520 people on board. The flight lasted less than an hour, and there was no hope of saving the uncontrollable aircraft. 4 passengers managed to survive. Japan's Aircraft Accident Investigation Commission released their final report on the 19th of June 1987, identifying the crash's cause as a faulty repair on the aircraft's AFT pressure bulkhead. 7 years earlier, the plane suffered a tail strike at Osaka International Airport that damaged the bulkhead. Boeing's approved repair method requires 1 continuous splice plate and 3 rows of rivets, but technicians used 2 parallel splice plates instead. This flawed the repair, reduced the bulkhead's resistance to fatigue cracking by 30%. JAL's post-repair inspection missed the defect because it was hidden by overlapping plates. The faulty repair was estimated to fail roughly 11,000 pressurization cycles. However, the plane completed 12,318 flights before the bulkhead cracked. The failure caused rapid decompression, rupturing all 4 hydraulic systems and ejecting the vertical stabilizer, disabling many flight controls and rendering the aircraft uncontrollable.